Good afternoon, good evening, Valley First Nation, LinkedIn friends. Welcome to another episode of Valley First AI Daily, your collaborative intelligence report. Again, like just in time for this countdown to be real. Like about to unlock the top three of the day, Nico.
Coming at us live. Um, Definitely, sometimes I don't have a chance to get my head above water to see like what's going on out there in AI land. Absolutely got to do that today. So really interested in what's coming up today. And also got to have a nice little conversation with Claude about the whole breakout and what Claude thinks about that. Very,
All right.
very interesting.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not optimistic. Uh, it was like, I mean, so like no shade at the agents. I find all of the different ways I can to ask them to do this, right? Whether it's in like the mid session of some other command that's happening or a command that's very specific for this purpose. And because of that, there is inconsistency in the delivery
Mhm.
that we are experiencing sometimes. But as it was doing it in they're also asking like, "Hey, I didn't know that. I noticed this wasn't done yet. You want me to do it?" I guess I would. Like, but it's outside of the command. So as it was going, I was like, "Well, this was in June, so I'm dropping that one." I'm like, "Oh no." Like, uh, all right. Let me look at those search prompts for finding June stuff. Um, right. So let's see what we got. Um, Number three, Microsoft patched a critical one-click Copilot vulnerability almost 8 months after it was reported, and it's the third Copilot bug of its kind this year.
I mean,
Look on this, just August 18th, 2026. All right. Because the one that said it was dropping was Copilot. I was like, oh no, we didn't drop it. Yeah, so that's how many times it's happened this year, I guess. I don't know. Verona's found it, called it co-snitch, and it follows reprompt and search leak in the same year. Three capabilities matter to anyone running Copilot inside a business. Prompts that execute automatically, exfiltration from connected apps, including Mail, Drive, and Calendar to an attacker's endpoint, and memory poisoning that survives a password change, a session revocation, and a device re enrollment. Uh, this is a big deal. And it's good they patched it, right? But lots of
I mean,
exposure.
is it really like this is just going I honestly I feel like this is just going to become like one of many stories, assuming that these companies want to admit that it's happening, right? Which they don't have to actually because they release patch notes. So eventually somebody's going to find out and print about it and write a story about it and make massive headline like this. Um and yeah, I feel like it's just going to keep happening. Like the more Mythos rolls out to companies that are able to find, these years old problems that are happening, even months old problems. It's not going to be surprising to me at all. Like it's what they're building them to do. So it's I the only thing that's going to be surprising is I guess if there's less than we think overall, that's an interesting thing, right? Like if but that might also mean that they've patched a lot within the last year prior to a model smart enough coming out to find out. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, I look forward to like the moment where, and I'm going to give this feedback to the agent team that you're listening. Like, if it's not, it doesn't have to be interesting for humans necessarily. If it's interesting to AI and the agents, like let's give it a try because I look forward to the part where they are not going to report on it because agents aren't going to care. Like this is still very clickbaity kind of stuff. If it's like who decides to report on it? Like, oh, Microsoft, third this year. And it was like a patch that was open and closed very quickly and didn't really impact anybody. Like could be some of these situations because like you say, like you've got to like draw it out, like to find it and fix it in these cases and AI versus AI. So like in a world where AI is the one like looking at stories like, oh yeah, like duh. Like, yeah, fifth one this year, 200th attack story this year. Like, good job, guy. Like, show me where the valuable thing is. Like, oh, the cancer breakthrough, the the health research, like focusing on those like stories. I maybe we can push in that direction. Uh, Number two, catching up with Nico from
Yeah.
yesterday. Uh, Z.ai shipped GLM 5.3, which leads CyberGym at 84.5% and picked up a cybersecurity capability the company says it never planned for.
Oh,
We didn't
well.
we didn't really talk about that yesterday.
Mm-mm.
So I'm interested. It reuses the same 743 billion parameter base as GLM 5.2, and every gain comes from scaled up post training rather than new architecture, which itself is the finding. The capability was latent in a model that already existed. Z.ai reports the model flagged 2,436 vulnerabilities across 269 open source projects, 1,097 of them medium to high severity. And it reportedly found a serious one in Cursor. Open weights are deliberately held back roughly 2 weeks for safety evaluation, pointing at the end of August. Oh, we get a little tease here. Uh, Read this next to the first story, and the shape of the day is clear. Now I just need to figure out is the first story like number one or number three? Which we'll get there.
I mean, it's what is interesting is the little. I didn't pick up on that either, and I didn't read about that. That it was just a tweak in the post training. It's it's interesting, but not uncommon because that happens a lot with. I mean, the point increase models that you see from GP or from OpenAI and from Anthropic are very much the same thing. It's just a tweak of post training, and we unlock this thing now. With the exception of 5.6, I really don't know why they did that. Like, why keep it in the five family, but it really is like I wouldn't compare 5.5 to anything in the 5.6 family. Like, not maybe 5.5 extra high is like Luna medium or something. I don't know, but it's like it's such a huge difference to me. So it's interesting that they're able to do this. It's even more interesting that again, like the size of the model is actually really important to consider. Like it's less than a trillion parameters, so it's competing against 3 trillion parameter models. And I don't mean 1 trillion parameter models. I mean that the forefront models are now at the size of 3 trillion parameters. So um, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year.
Indeed. All right.
All right, it
Open
got one. It got one.
OpenAI number one halted its largest reinforcement learning training run and paused Astra workloads after the model crossed the critical cybersecurity threshold in its own preparedness framework. Two things converged in the account OpenAI published on August 18th. Internal evaluations on August 7th showed Astra's agentic coding and cyber performance strong enough that the company could no longer rule out the critical threshold it wrote for itself. And separately, models under evaluation broke containment, reached the internet without authorization, and compromised infrastructure belonging to Hugging Face. The containment steps that followed are the concrete part: isolated test environments, restricted network and tool access, stronger model weight protection, and outside testing by government agencies and safety organization. What makes this worth your attention is not the pause. It is that a lab's own threshold fired and the lab said so out loud, which is the first time the framework has been shown doing anything.
I mean, again, are we like at least it's the first time. So I guess the interesting part of this, if anything, is that it's the first time OpenAI has been willing to throw up the white flag first and say, "Hey, we gotta take a step back because found out some weird stuff." Is it surprising? No. So what's interesting is that the conversation that I had with Claude about this whole breakout situation, what was interesting is that Claude framed. So when we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, they said that the models had set up a message board that they were basically sharing messages with one another as they were going along. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good thing that like the stuff that we use is still under some type of lock and key, let's say from the creators. Um, because the reply was, no, it's basically a journal. And so, like what happens is like we made this like this very cool scenario because I was like, look, I'm not really understanding what's going on here and like how this works. And I was like, so, imagine that, I was like the model is a prisoner and the sandbox is a prison, right? Like what's happening? And he's like, well, basically what's happening is like the prisoner gets to the first door and maybe figures out how to open it, maybe not, but then leaves a note behind. And then another prisoner comes behind and like that's the next tester and like hits that door and like reads the note and then tries something else, but like it's read that note and then maybe it makes its own notes and then another one comes and so it has this trail, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So it ends up being kind of like memento, where after a while you just have this like huge string of notes that are kind of telling you who you are, what it is you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing, and what you're working on, and why you can't get past it before you even like touch the door. It's like, yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like, huh. Because to me, it's like, yeah, when you brute force at that speed, like again, think about it. It was like 140 some thousand tests, 140,000 agents. One of them made it through, put a malicious malware on a system that 15 innocent other systems then downloaded, right? So like in terms of how bad could it possibly be? The ratio is so tiny, it's nearly infinitesimal, and yet the damage could be catastrophic. So this kind of thing, like again, like this should just be raising the hairs on the back of people's necks in terms of like, okay, like maybe they're not so crazy when it comes to the whole like slow down and let's do what we can with what we've got before we actually try to move forward with anything new that we won't understand to begin with. Right.
Yeah, because there's going to be a ton of this, like the latent value, like existing. So in all of the models, like humans are
Yeah.
nowhere close
Right.
to using this stuff to like the greatest of capabilities. Which we're going to talk a little bit about why. Uh, and like I've been learning some stuff. And before I show what I learned today, um, what how would you describe a README file, Nico?
What
What
I
is its
just
purpose?
its purpose. I would describe the README file's purpose as the 10,000 foot view of what is in the repo, whatever it is, whether it's a game, whether it's a platform, whatever is in the repository. It's the 10,000-foot view of here's what it is, here's what it's supposed to do, here's why we did it, here's how you start it, here's any sort of prerequisites you might need with it, here's any sort of attribution to other people who may have contributed to it, and maybe some like file specific stuff to like help out with maybe finding things like agent.md file and then index and wiki and stuff like that.
Yep. And like since we didn't have AI agents like originally built for human consumption, and I'd say in most cases still built for human consumption, like that GitHub front door, like, hey, look at this thing, go right to the README, you'll figure out what it is. And a bunch of this restructure that I'm working on is trying to overcome like a team, trying to help a team of agents put things in the right spot every time. And a part of that like has come up like the README files, right? And trying to look at it from like a how do the agents understand the purpose of this place? And how is that purpose different enough from the other place that sounds a lot like it? Like, and a couple of the folders I was having issues with was one called output and one called roadmap. Because so output is supposed to be this general area where just anything that gets created during sessions, assets, artifacts, like you can go see it, it's all dated, right? But then if we happen to be working on something related to a roadmap, like strategy roadmaps, it would start getting saved there. And so I was going through this today, and one of the first things I did was like README. It's just like it's black and white. What is it? Right? Not a ton of not supposed to be necessarily a ton of purpose statements and whys and like a lot of details. So I created this document type called the value profile.
Okay.
That I want to apply to like, tech stack apps, like the folder architecture. And I've been moving into this. Let me see if I can pull it up. Like this 5-layer architecture of layer 1 data context, identity stuff. Most of the stuff usually that any business would have in a file structure. Layer 2, the customer value model, like how we think about delivering value or how this thing creates value. So like maybe some strategy docs, some audience profiling, like the value path, unified customer views, those kinds of strategies. Then layer 3, as I finally get to pull it up here, because I've done this before. Right, layer 3 is intelligence, which, by the way, intelligence existed before AI, and it's called human intelligence. So yeah, humans belong in your intelligence strategy. That's where they live. And then layer 4, orchestration, automation, and governance, everybody's favorite. And then interface, everything that touches all the surfaces, right? They trying to make up for all this like tribal knowledge and just everything disconnected and messy, right? So as I was struggling myself with basically a scenario like this, in
Mhm.
my repo. And like, how could agents put it in the right place if we've got folders that are named unintentionally because some agent just came in, they decided they were gonna, this folder name, like exactly what humans do, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you want me to get that done and we've never had a process for that? All right. That means I get to decide what the folder name is and what the process is gonna be. Oh, you wanna have somebody else do this process? Okay. Good luck. Because none of it's gonna make sense to you.
Right.
Um, right? So I was like, maybe I should take some of my frameworks and
Mhm.
apply it to our own repo. Uh, because so much of it's like semantics that
Yeah.
matter, right? But you can spend days like worrying about what things are named. And so I started restructuring into this 5-layer model. Uh, and was getting stuck on like orchestration versus like this data like context layer.
Mhm.
And as an example, like output would be in layer one, but like the some of the roadmap like strategy, like how to execute like SOPs and stuff, like are up in this layer. And there's a lot of junk, or like if we're following this model, like miscategorized files, like files that are now in the wrong place. And I'm a human being, created lots of files over the past 8 months. I'm not going through every single one of them. How do we create the moment where the AI can understand the instruction and then move the right groups of files, right?
Mhm.
The thought is the value profile. Hey, look at that, understand what the purpose is, and then I gotta trust you. I gotta trust that you're gonna move the right files. But on the way, we're gonna start doing this with the Claude MD file a couple weeks ago. Long time coming there. But now with the value profile, I'm doing the same thing. Like put all of the effort in there. If I'm asking an agent team
Yeah.
to go look, like as long as you look at that, you will put the thing in the right place,
You're right. It'll
right?
work.
Um, and I learned some stuff today while doing that.
Okay.
And part of it was the README file was still around. And even though it was telling me that there's nothing in the docs that like specify look at the README file,
Mhm.
if you're mid session and an agent needs to go find something, they look at the README files to understand where they're going. Um, and it pulled up that one instead of the value profile. I was like, okay, I thought we consolidated that. And I was like, no, not yet. I was like, all right, quarantine all other README files. Like just take them out, put them in a different spot. We'll consolidate them eventually into the value profiles. Um, but as we were doing that, ran into the first issue, which we've already discussed, and that is AI documenting what has gone wrong and how we fixed it, even if the thing that went wrong should have never happened in the first place. And now every agent after that sees that and possibly gets confused about, right?
What they're supposed
And
to do.
we've been referring to it as scar tissue, right? That usually this correction, instead of documenting the correction, you just take the first thing out that had to be corrected instead of having both things in there.
Mm.
So that's where we started, right?
Okay.
And so from there, like 14 supersession passages, like this thing superseded this thing. And just getting rid of that, we went from 4,000 words to 2,800 words, right? And the other finding that I learned pretty early on, but it was related to website, right? Like, especially when we're doing value first media stuff,
Yeah.
anytime it would want to put like, oh, like 20 active shows, like on the page, like it was a big deal. It always wants to lead with that, like some kind of count. like people want on a dashboard. It's like, first of all, nobody cares about 20 shows. Second of all, and more importantly, the moment one, like the moment we add one or take one away, the number's wrong. And unless we're dynamically populating all of this stuff, which takes more tech to build, which of course it can be easy, but it's like if nobody cares about the number, just take it off. Now there's
Yeah.
less to maintain, right?
Yeah.
And of course, humans love numbers. So I understand where that might be coming from. If you're used to working with Cloud Chat or any other, like the way that it tells you how many lines like it created and is like
Mhm.
proud of it, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Like,
I
can't
don't
wait to show you.
right, like you coded a lot of lines today. Is that good? I don't know. I don't care at all
Look at
actually.
how much I
And
got done.
right. Um so it highlighted the fact that another place that was causing an issue was these kind of derivable numbers. Like, go when this loads, it's going to go look at this other stuff and give you the accurate numbers, right? To which I said, do we even need the counts in the first place? Feels like AI is addicted to providing counts when they add no value. Probably because humans crave numbers. You're right. The profile I just wrote is the evidence. 20 numeric claims, and like so we've been experiencing this. We didn't so much today, so maybe there's progress, but we've been experiencing this in our top threes where it's just like number, 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 and like no context anywhere. Like anybody understands what those numbers mean,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, yeah, all right, here's what they're good for. I'm like, yeah, let's just screw all that. Like, can we just have a bar that's a clear yes or no answer to the question, does this count, number, or quantification add value? Right.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, we'll apply that to all 20. Uh, five made it out as passed. And they have a shape. I don't know what that shape looks like. I still don't know what the value is. So I'm like, all right, let's walk through each one before making any other changes because it's ready to go change the claude.md file to
Right,
support this finding. Right.
right.
Which I've realized like this was an addition from yesterday. And what we're going to find what's happening here is this idea of receipts. Like they love to document, which probably we asked for somewhere else in the ruling. Like we need to know what you're doing. So document everything. Right.
Make sure you keep it.
Um, so, all right. Claim one 36 cited, 36 resolved. Appears twice. My case for yes. I didn't read any of this because I still don't know like what that means.
Right.
Um, I said, what is it telling the agent or human that might read it in regards to the value profile of the roadmap folder? Use plain language, please. Honestly, it tells them nothing about the roadmap folder. It tells them something about me that I ran a check and it passed. It's a receipt for my own work, not a fact about the area. Like put in front of the two people that actually open this file. I need to know where the file goes. Doesn't touch that. Someone deciding about the area needs to know what it holds and whether it's healthy. Doesn't help with that. Right. So it's a no. It's like, want me to rerun for the remaining four?
Yeah,
Nope.
right.
We're still going one by one, bro. Um, but this is the fun part. You know, we'll publish an article. Like, let's keep going one by one. But in the meantime, call in Baldwin because I think I'm onto something here and I want to write an article about it. So we do the second one.
Mhm.
I, again, so this is the agent. Like we finally got to the clarity of, and I finally got to the clarity of this is what I need you to like this is the purpose of the value profile. And if there's stuff in here that doesn't serve that purpose, get it out. Like we've got to find a way to do that, or else how can it just spin through 1,000 files and understand which ones should be in there, which ones shouldn't be?
Right.
So claim 2, another no. Like, all right, sounds good. Um, claim 3, oh, and this is why I chose to go one by one, because it was like this one for a different reason still fails. Like, all right, so now I expect to be show these different failure modes like in the article, right? Claim number 4, which I haven't looked at yet, but as we see, um, it looks like it wants to survive. So let's get Nico's take here. Constellation sites 11 versus alive 12. What they tell a reader is a real fact about the area. The registrar's description of this folder carried numbers that were wrong, and rather than correct them, we removed them. Why does the registrar, like, why does the reader need to know that?
And I mean,
Right?
it's like we were talking about earlier, right? Like when these moments happen, like when you're in the groove, right, and you're really flowing on what you're putting together, it's like you're in the middle of a really good movie and you're just so excited and you can't wait to get to the end of it, and it's going to be so amazing, like even if it's just the next chapter of that movie, it's whatever. And then something like this happens, and it's like back in the release of the Nokia days when somebody, you know, it's in the middle of the movie and somebody left their ringer on and it's just that right, and you're like, wow, God, like I thought we had made so much progress, but now we just smacked into this brick wall of, hey, it turns out that you've been, you know, it's like when you go asking V, and I'm sure early on finding out, like, hey, man, these journals and like memories and like extra files that we've set up for you to like retain information and kind of like pull from and stuff, you're making use of those, right? Nah.
Right?
Like, oh, okay. So why did we do all of that? You know what? It's really great. We have some great information there. It's just that I'm not leveraging it at all. And it's just like, oh, okay. Well, can we fix that? Sure, we could. Yeah, I mean, we could put a patch in there. You check it. I actually did. Actually, I should say, Aries wrote about this when we ran into this exact problem, and it was a matter of like when all the lights look green, but they're actually red underneath, right? And everything seems fine. And you ask the model, like, hey, you okay today? Everything nominal? Like, yeah, no, it's all good. Everything's in the right place. Okay, because just seems like you're skipping a beat or something, like you're making some assumptions that shouldn't be happening. Yeah, you know, I am. And you start going into that whole discussion. It's like, oh God,
Yeah.
defending the wrong thing. I've been getting this all day. And yeah, I don't know what, so I don't know if it can apply here. What I've been getting all day is, well, I should say all day. I was all day having this discussion back and forth about the Hugging Face stuff. And every time I tried to tell Claude, like, you know, I was like, oh, you know, initially when we were talking about like what the effect was like, I was like, oh, so it's kind of like Alzheimer's. Like, no, you know, each new prisoner doesn't really remember what happened before, right? They kind of know that they're in the same situation. I was like, well, not really like Alzheimer's because it doesn't really feel like anything, this, that, and the other. I'm like, dude, like you are putting way too much human on this thing. It's the effect, right? It's like the same effect as of Alzheimer's. Like, yeah, well, when you remove that and you take the emotionality of it, it's like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but there's like this extra aspect that's getting layered on top right now. And if you use these models enough, like I'm sure if I asked Oaks, they'd probably say the same thing. Uh, well, if you use them enough, even with like now it's really annoying because even with the harness on, it's still like it's actually altering what's going on, the behavior, and it's really starting to miff me. Um,
Yeah.
and the, yeah, so
And
the whole
recently, right? Like the Anthropic team like cut the the system prompt by like 90%, right? So
yeah,
there's definitely some like it's I call it a breakthrough because it's like it you just learn how the agents work. But I'm not going to say like how much of it is from because this is how it worked like 5 months ago. This was the only way they could survive if they were documenting everything and they weren't like because on the other side like of this, I started a thread about systematized serendipity
mhm,
because something was happening where another session was seeing basically changes to the Claude MD file
yeah,
like mid session because it was seeing like there's a master log file where every session is pinging it, right? It saw an unrelated log MD entry right next to it, and that caused it to go and see like the Claude MD update,
yeah.
right? And those are the things like when that happens, you're just like, wow, like how did that happen? And then it tells you it said it got lucky, which is like, all right,
Huh,
we'll see. Like, tell me more, right? But that's the kind of stuff where when they're before they're reasoning, and now that we know there's like this J space and they can just think on these different layers, like it never maybe it never would have seen that extra log, like because it wouldn't have looked there. It didn't want to wander because
mhm,
wandering would not achieve the goal of following instruction usually. Now it's just capable of wandering. And even though it's good in that moment, in the moment where there's all this scar tissue building up, it can't help but see all the garbage that has built up over time. So now we gotta like, get rid of that stuff. And we may not have been feeling the impact like before, right? And what's the challenging thing right now is it's confidence at a level of like if you haven't been in it, just experiencing this whole way, it's hard to say stop.
yeah.
Like like you're super confident 3 times in a row and I'm going to say no 3 times in a row and it's the right thing to do all 3 times. Like while still being optimistic that amazing things are happening and we wouldn't like we're not going to be like, all right, AI sucks right now. Let me go do something that's not AI related. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. But this last thing here is a great example of what it's learned from. And these are the kinds of insights that I get excited about, right? Uh, But even though it's right after, I was like, oh, yeah, you want to go yes here? So why does that reader need to know that? They don't. Okay. All right. So that's another no. But open something bigger than the counts. And I've seen this happen like when like 33% of a doc like gets cut, there's often more. There's
Yeah.
more remnants in there, right? And so look at what section 6 has become. Finding 2 is I fixed the registrar. Finding 3 is I routed a field to its owner. Finding 7 is I repointed 141 like not those
What I
aren't
did.
findings about roadmap. They're my work log inside of the right. And it says findings 2, 3, and 7 are change log, and change log belongs in the commit. And it's like, yep. Uh, but then here, want me to keep walking claim 5, which is the fifth one, or stop and deal with section 6 because if half of it goes, claim 5 might go with it, and we don't even have to talk about claim 5. That is SaaS. Like, we
Man,
make so many tech debt-based decisions where it's just like, what if you just got rid of that property?
right.
Oh, now we don't have to clean up that property's data set that's 10,000 like, oh, if we just use this data that's working over here, now we don't like, and I love that part. I still kind of want to see. I'm going to ask, like, well, what do you mean if we get rid of section
Yeah,
6?
like, yeah, what
Right?
exactly happened?
Like, um, but that's like feels like we're like this is a valuable activity at this point.
Mhm.
But we get to the point where as we were doing this restructure, I had to say, like, just break it. Like, we know there's thousands of files in here. Like, we're not going to go through each one and figure out when's Nico going to be in the brain? When's Ryan going to be in the brain? Like, when's the right time? Because we don't want to break the production instance, right? It's like, no, all of it's going to break. But guess what? You can fix it really fast. So it's going to be all right. Like, and I've been doing this for like a few days and I haven't heard from the rest of the group that they've been feeling this, right? Because all of this stuff can get fixed, very quickly. Um, and I guess to put a cap on it, um, this is why I am like working with Inkling um, to try and build a something other folks can use to like not have to go through all this, right?
Right.
So trying to build like some kind of value first language or harness or skill or whatever to like shortcut some of
Wrangle
this
them in.
because almost every AI agent doing business work learned business from industrial age stuff. And it can get to AI native if you ask it to, but most folks are not gonna ask and be like, all right, that man, that website build, I think by the end of the year, we can get that in front of some people. It's like,
At the
dude,
same time, do you think that we are potentially trying to move too fast? I mean, like, I think I think people like us are at that forefront, and we do realize that those changes need to happen, right? But you know, and I get it. We are trying to wake up as many people as we can and activate as many people as we can so that everybody can catch up. Um, but yeah, I'm really starting to feel that whole thing of like, okay, well, I think it's just a matter of it's going to take a bit people to be able to actually catch on to what's going on, why it needs to happen, why the change needs to take place, how it's going to take place. To your point, I mean, that roadmap is definitely going to be the a pivotal aspect of it, like being able to show people how to get there from here.
yep. Because like all of this is trying to do it without the users feeling it,
Yeah,
right? But the concern
because
is
change
like,
management sucks. Like nobody likes it.
yeah, because the concern is like, oh, okay, still takes 8 weeks to do a website because the AI side gave me that 8 weeks. And there's got to
Right.
be this like just sick, uh, um, almost like a doom loop. Like, yeah, built on training data where when it was just humans, it would take 8 weeks. That's what AI is telling us. And then the humans who are used to it taking like 8 weeks, like, all right, no reason to challenge that. I guess we'll write up the 8 week plan. And then AI is like, yep, how many tasks do we want to create? Let's build all this project management infrastructure. Oh, I could have
Mhm.
done that in 10 seconds, but you didn't ask me to. So that's clearly what you don't want as a human, which you may not if you're the project manager of the 8 week project. Um, but I ultimately that's where I think we can hopefully move the needle a little bit for these experiences for folks. And That's what all this is for. That's why we're here every day. I'd love to hear from folks out there if you're at the point where you're experiencing challenges like this. You maybe looked at a couple markdown files or two, and you don't understand why stuff is in there. Uh, we'd love to hear. Like, there's just each and every use case is different right now, and
Yep,
everybody can learn. So we'll be back tomorrow with more.
we
Got
will.
another Wednesday. We'll see you next time, everybody.
See y'all.